So let's get started. Welcome everyone. Such a great honor to welcome you all to our very first public event today. Please introduce yourself in the chat, name, place, if you're with an organization, and yeah, what are you excited to learn from this event today? Do introduce yourselves in the chat. So I'm Matangi, the founder of Parity Lab, a first of its kind accelerator for rural survival-led grassroots organizations addressing gender-based violence. So over a period of 18 months, we provide our capacity building, mental health support, legal counseling support to grassroots organizations. Before we begin, I want to recognize the survivors of violence in this very room, in our families, in our lives, some of whom have already lost their lives, some of whom are living in fear every single day. So I want to start this event with a 10-second silence to honor their fight and to remind ourselves that we are not alone. We all live amongst more than 1 billion survivors of gender-based violence in the world today. Thank you. A quick logistic, we have live interpretation available today. So at the bottom in your Zoom screen, please go to your interpretation button and choose your preferred language. You can choose either English or Hindi, whichever you prefer to listen in. Also, so excited, honored to introduce the Parity Lab team today, who have worked very hard, without which nothing is possible. So could you please wave or raise your hands as I call out names, please? Pooja Jha, our Ops Associate, Dr. Nora Khalaf, the co-author of this report we are launching today, Manaswini, Programs Associate, and also the co-author of the report. We have some board and advisory members, Michelle Partogi, Jyoti Ravichandran, and a lot of other like funding partners, friends, advisors. I see quite a lot of familiar names. Thank you so much for coming today and being a part of this event. So let's get started. This is the agenda for the next almost 45 minutes. Please keep dropping Q&A questions in the chat. We also have a Q&A section. We have team members monitoring it, so we can keep it as interactive as we can. So why should we understand the journey to justice? So we know the data points. 1 in 3 women are survivors of violence today. Intimate partner violence almost touches 50%. And these statistics only worsen as we cross across caste, class, other geographical identities due to the vast systemic inequities that exist. Yet we also know that reporting rates are less than 10%. Divorce rates in India in particular touch less than 1% today. This report was really born out of my own personal lived experience and that of our incredible grassroots leaders, with deep conversations, interviews, focus group discussions, and workshops. What does it mean to really achieve justice? And why is justice often not achieved? What role do grassroots organizations play in this journey to justice? And how can other stakeholders like us understand these on-ground realities and better support our grassroots organizations who are doing some really fierce work? Super excited to launch our report, our white paper, and share our learnings with you all, which have lots of quotes and stories and case studies of on-ground realities of our grassroots partners. Violence is often thought of as interpersonal at the household level, typically between a man and a woman. That's the stereotypical way of thinking about violence. In reality, the systemic violence against survivors is often as bad or sometimes even worse than the interpersonal violence. For example, a 2019 report by JPAL found that 40% of officers in India believe that gender-based violence are generally unfounded. So to even file a complaint, it may take hours, days, sometimes weeks, sometimes even protests to take the police to just accept the complaint. Our panelist Ranjita, our partner organization, she actually made a very nuanced comment. Police officers also make it about caste in our community. They stereotype us. They say we are a community without self-respect. They don't understand that awareness has increased in our community, so people are finally coming for justice. This is the same situation in panchayats as well, typically male, upper caste dominated, where survivors treated are often dismissed, and the core disagreements in common kind of adjust. The legal system, let's say they somehow get through police and the panchayat and they enter the legal system. That is a decades-long journey. It's hard even for the most elite women with unlimited access to money, emotional energy, physical abilities, like superhuman abilities, even for that. The question is justice worth 10 years of my life? And I may not even get justice at the end of it. And all of this is then compounded by social determinants to justice. So caste, literacy, access to finance, access to transportation, where are you based out of? The fourth biggest piece is societal. Meenaji is now going to talk in the panel discussion more about compromise. The word compromise has taken on this really dark meaning, where even murder is settled between families through exchange of money or exchange of goods. So intense stigma to intense shame, this intense pressure to preserve families at any cost. And so we are going to hear more about all of that. So the systemic violence is just intense for a survivor to even like come out and ask for justice. In such a context, who is there for these women? What we find that is grassroots organizations are often the first and honestly the only line of defense for millions of women. And they function in three major ways. They function as first responders. They function as negotiators in a very, very complex system. And they function as advocates and activists for these survivors. And their role starts even before the violence has happened, right before. So they start with an outreach process through public campaigns, leveraging existing networks, word of mouth. They often act as eyes and ears for women who are stuck in really violent situations, and they know that this woman is struggling, but is not in a position to come out of it. They are these tough negotiators. For example, they know which police officer is available when, how exactly to talk to them, which political party are they affiliated to today, how do we talk to this person at the panchayat, what does psychological first aid look for this particular woman in this caste and this household. They also offer practical legal counseling. Just legal knowledge by itself is not enough because the system is just set up against survivors. So what is really practical for this woman? Often they're subjected to abuse themselves. We're going to hear stories about that as well. Subjected to physical, verbal abuse, sometimes as extreme as bomb threats. They also play a super unique role around relationship building. So when compromise happens, when money is getting exchanged, is there a way to center survivor needs in that entire transaction? And is there an end to this process? In reality, often not. The trauma continues for years. And our only line of defense today is grassroots organizations who help center these survivor needs the best way they can in a very, very broken system. Given this critical role, then how do we then identify and resource powerful grassroots organizations doing such life-saving work? So localization is a concept that's floating around quite a bit in international development circles. what does it mean to do it in practice? That's a question I've been asked many, many, many times. I believe grassroots organizations are also being asked that today. I believe that if an organization really wants to center grassroots, they have to center their process around grassroots. For example, if you want to identify a grassroots organization, what does your reach out process look like? Is it multilingual? Is it on social media, or is it being put through these trusted networks? How long is the application process? What is the evaluation criteria like? Does your team have folks with lived grassroots experience? Is it multilingual? What does compliance look like? For example, if we have requirements around minimum budgets, around a lot of compliance and paperwork, how does that affect our identification of grassroots? So as stakeholders, all of us being stakeholders in this conversation today, how are each one of us going to create either new processes or make the ones we already have to truly, truly center the needs of grassroots organizations? We are now going to listen directly from our grassroots warriors on their struggles, their challenges, how they advocate for survivors every day, and how can we better support them in their quest for safety and equity. So super excited to welcome our panel into the conversation. Please keep dropping your questions either into the chat or into the Q&A. Manaswini will also be dropping their longer bios in the chat. I feel very, very honored to introduce our cohort of grassroots partners. Ranjita is the founder of Samarthya, a youth-founded, women-led organization that works with women, youth, and children from the indigenous community called the Denotified Nomadic Tribe Community, DNTs, who have been criminalized since British times. My first memory of Ranjita is her voracious passion to learn. She spoke about her vision to shine a light on DNT's issues faced by them at a national, at an international platform. Ranjita, very excited to have you here today. Next is Meena Devi, is the founder of Sahajini Shiksha Kendra, an organization that has impacted 15,000 plus women and adolescent girls from the Dalit community through their education, literacy programs, awareness campaigns against child marriage in the region of Bundelkhand, a region that is infamous for crimes against women. Meena ji inspires me on what it means to be courageous in the midst of just unbelievable extreme violence. She leads a team that is 100% survivor-led, many of whom are survivors living presently in situations of violence, and then inspires them to heal by working for others. It's no mean feat. Super inspired to have you here today with us, Meena ji. Next on the panel is Neelam, who is the founder of Jharkhand Mahila Utthan, an indigenous women-led organization that works on education, collective leadership, livelihoods, and empowerment in Jharkhand, India. They work with elected women representatives to introduce a feminist lens to developmental initiatives. We all know standing for elections is no mean feat. I would be terrified to do it. But I remember meeting Neelam. I was so inspired, so impressed with women who have not, gone through the standard education system. And they were just these fierce campaigners. They were on bikes, campaigning, creating all this awareness. Neelam has worked with 110 plus elected women reps, has achieved more than a 40% re-election rate over the last 10 years. So excited to have Neelam ji in this panel with us. Next, our moderator, Hemakshi Meghani, a friend, passionate feminist, the co-founder of Indian School of Democracy, which has a vision to redefine public leadership by nurturing principled political leaders. She has so many fellowships to her credit: the Teach for India, Acumen Foundry, Echoing Green Fellow, also an alumna of the Harvard Kennedy School. I cannot think of a better person to moderate this conversation today. Hemakshi's passion to bring more women into politics and feminist principal leaders into politics, and also how willing she is to share her networks to help other social innovators succeed. So excited to have you here, Hemakshi. And I'll stop sharing my screen. On to you, Himakshi. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू नमस्ते जय भीम सभी को और पैरिटी लैब्स टीम को
Hello,
धन्यवाद कि
and
उन्होंने
thank you to Parity Lab
पे ये मौका दिया मेरी एक
uh,
रिक्वेस्ट है
for
कि
giving me
तीनों
the
पैनलिस्ट्स को पिन कर सकें यस ताकि हम
giving her
सारे
the
सबको देख
opportunity to
पाए
be here today and requested to
मैं हिंदी में
pin
बोलूंगी
all the
वहाँ क्योंकि हमारा पैनल डिस्कशन हिंदी में है
since
तो
our
अगर
panel
कोई
discussion
कंफ्यूजन हो रहा होगा
is
फॉर
in
दोस
Hindi,
हु
I'm going to
वांट टू
be
लिसन
speaking
इन
in
इंग्लिश
Hindi, and
तभी
anyone who wants to uh,
यही
listen
तीनों पैनलिस्ट
uh, in
स्पॉटलाइट
Hindi
आप
channel,
सभी हैं
then please choose the English channel
अगर नहीं आ रही है
where
तो
the
फिर आप
translation
कंटिन्यू कर
is
सकते हैं
available.
जैसे टीचर कहे
So they are trying to pin all the three panelists, uh, and she's waiting just so that they are all on the, we are able to see them, and then we'll start.
जी नीना जी वीडियो पे तो हैं
Uh, Meenaji is on the video. Yeah, we can see her now.
को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद
So thank
एक
you
तो यहाँ
to
आने के लिए
all of
फिर
you,
मैं
first of
वही
all, to
वीडियो
come
देख
here.
रही थी जो मुझे
And then I was reading the
शायद
white
शायद चार
paper
बजे या बाद में कहीं सबसे
which
शेयर करेंगी
Charity
जिसमें विश्वनाथन जी
Parity
बात कर
Lab
रहे
is
थे
going to
और
share with
जब भी
everyone
कोई भी
later, which she
मुझे
was
ऐसा
talking about.
मेरे अंदर
When I
एकदम
was
से फेथ का
reading,
इंजेक्शन दिया है
I
क्योंकि
just
आप
felt
जैसे शब्द चुन
burst
रहे
of
हैं क्या क्या
energy when I
कहानियां
was reading your
और जिन
stories
बच्चाओं के साथ आज
and
हम
the
काम कर
women you
रहे हैं
were
उनकी कहानियां
working with.
पढ़ते
When
पढ़ते
I
भी हो रही
read
हैं
the
कि
stories,
हमारे
I
देश
felt
की ये
sad.
हालत है कि अभी
This
भी
is
ये
the
सब
condition in
चीजें
our
हमें
country. This
बहुत
is
लोगों
still
को
going
नहीं पता
on.
है ये
And a lot of
सच्चाइयाँ
people
एक
don't
एक
know
घर
this
की जो सच्चाई है
reality,
वो नहीं
this
पता है
reality
और वो
of the
हिम्मत इस
struggles that
बारे में ले
women
रहे
have.
हैं कि आप
But
हमसे
I
मिलिए
am feeling
और
really
हजारों लोगों को मदद कर रहे हैं ताकि
motivated the
ये
way you
एग्जाम
are
क्लियर हो
helping
जाए और ये जो
thousands of women so that this
ऑपरेशन है उसको उससे
oppression
हम बंद कर सकें
stops,
आगे
uh, and
जाके
we can work
तो मेरा
towards
सबसे पहला सवाल एक्चुअली आप तीनों से है
this. So my
अगर
first
हम दो
question
ढाई
for all
मिनट
of
ले पाए
three
जरा
of you,
तो
and we
काफी
can
कुछ
take
शायद
two,
वही
two
पे
and a
लिखा
half
है और सब
minutes,
लोग
and
अपने
I'm sure
होंगे
some people have read the white
जाने
paper and some might
जर्नी को जाने
read
अगर हम
later
दो
and
ढाई
they'll know
मिनट
their
में
stories.
ये
But
बताएं कि आपने
if
जो
in
फर्स्ट
two
हाफ
and two and a
शुरू
half
की है
minutes,
ग्रामीण
if you
फोकस
can
पे
talk
महिलाओं के
about
लिए
how you have
यूथ के
started your
लिए
organization,
क्यों
the way you're
कीजिए
working with
आपने
the
ये
women
चूज
and
और
youth,
क्यों आप
why
ये
you started the
साल बाद भी हजारों
organization,
लोगों को
and
मदद
why you
कर
want
रहे
to
हैं
reach out to
तो रंजिता
so
जी पहले
many
आपसे
people.
शुरू
What
करते
is
हैं और
the
फिर हम
your
मीना जी को
motivation
लेते हैं
behind starting your organization? If you could talk a bit about yourself and about the
मैं 22 साल की
organization.
लड़की थी
So there was a
जो
10-year-old girl
पुलिस वैन के पीछे 2 ढाई किलोमीटर तक दौड़ रही थी
who was
और
running behind a
वो देख
police
रही थी कि
van around
जहाँ पे
two and two
मुझे
and a
बस
half
उस पुलिस वैन में
mile.
बिठा के पुलिस
She
लेके जाएंगे
saw women,
और
police was
देर
taking
रात
her
से रात हो
mother
गई तो
forcefully.
वहां पे उसको रखा गया
They kept her in
घर
the
में छोटे छोटे
station,
भाई बहन थे तो वो
and she
रो
had
रहे थे कि पता नहीं
small
मेरे साले को
children,
क्यों उठा रहे हैं
siblings at home, and they did
तो
not know why mother
ये
was
समझ
taken
नहीं आ रहा
away.
था कि मेरी माँ को
So she was
जबरदस्ती
not able to
किसी
understand what was
परिपक्वता
happening,
के
why
बावजूद
her mother was
उठाया
taken
गया
away when she
और
had done nothing
रात
wrong,
भर घर में भेजा नहीं
and
गया
why she was not
इसी तरह
sent
का एक
home and
लड़की का
kept in
व्यवहार मेरे
all
संस्कारों
night.
के साथ सदियों
And this
से होता
kind of
आया है ब्रिटिश काल में जैसे माता जी
this
अपन
kind of
स्वतंत्र
treatment was
एक्ट बना
given
को सेकंड
to
अमेंडमेंट
my
पास
community
किया
from
उसके बाद
ages.
स्वतंत्रता के बाद भी आज
So
भी इसको
denotified
गलत कह के ये कम्युनिटी जी रही
tribe,
है और आज भी
the
पुलिस
community
इसी तरह
still
का व्यवहार
has the stigma.
करते आ रही है
It is still
और
continuing with those
इस
kind of
जीवन जीते
treatments,
हुए
and they're still
हर
living in the
स्तर
same
वाली हिंसा
condition.
पुलिस के
So they not only face
वाली हिंसा और कम्युनिटी के अंदर
violence
होने वाली
from
हिंसा इन सारी चीजों से
outside, but also
घिर रहा
inside the
था और
community. And the
ये
community was
बचपन से ही
facing all these
देख रहे
things.
थे
And we were
आसपास
seeing
हिंसा
this,
का माहौल
witnessing
महिला
this
में शिक्षा की कमी में
violence
लड़कियों
since
की
our childhood.
कम उम्र में
There is
शादी कर
lack
दी
of
जाती है
education, they get
इस
married
तरीके का माहौल
very
देख के मुझे
early. So we
बार
saw
बार
this kind of
मेरे जहन से
environment.
ये बात आई
And
कि
when I saw
मुझे
all
कुछ
this,
करना है तो इस
it
कम्युनिटी को इस
came to
सारी
me
बुराई से
that
बाहर निकालने के लिए
if I have
कुछ
to do
करना है
something
इस
and
तरीके से
work for
एक
my community,
तरह का ग्रुप बना जो
and
इसी
that is what
कम्युनिटी से जुड़े
motivated me
थोड़े
to
बहुत पढ़े लिखे थे
uh,
उन्होंने
start
एक
Samarthya.
सामर्थ्य ग्रुप के रूप में हमने काम
So some of
स्टार्ट किया
the
शिक्षा
youth who was
शिक्षा समुदाय को
educated,
लेके बाल
we
विवाह
came
हटाने के
together
लिए या
and we
महिलाओं के
started
ऊपर जो
working on
हिंसा
the
की जो
issues on
घटनाएं हैं उनको
violence, on
लेके कहीं ना कहीं
education.
और ये
And we
सम्मानित जीवन
started with
जीने के
creating
तरीके से
awareness so
समाज
that
को
they
कैसे
can
बढ़ा
live
सकते हैं और एक
uh,
गरिमापूर्ण जीवन
a
जीने के
dignified
लिए
life.
उनको राह पर चलने की कोशिश की
We
तरफ
can
उनका
help
अवेयर
them
करना चाहते थे।
to
इसी से हमने
initiate
सामर्थ्य का शुरुआत किया
a
था।
way for them to live a
सामर्थ्य अभी
dignified life,
पिछले
and
10
that
साल
was
से
the motive of
इसी कम्युनिटी के
Samarthya.
बीच में
And since
युवाओं के
last 10
नेतृत्व में
years,
काम कर रही है
we are
और
working
अभी
with
100%
youth
यहाँ पे यदि हम
leadership
लोग काम करें तो वो इस
and
तरीके से आए
100%
कि
work.
हम है
Uh,
और एक युवाओं का काफी बड़ा नेटवर्क बना पाए हैं
we have a
और
huge network
करीबन
of young
6-7
people
हजार
from the
महिलाओं
same
के साथ
community.
मिलके
We
हमने
have worked with
महिला
6,000,
महिला
seven
महिलाओं
thousand women,
रोकथाम या
and we
एंटी
have worked on
उस तरीके
prevention
से
of
उसे
violence
बढ़ाने की
against
हमें कोशिश
women.
जारी है और
We are still
इसी वजह
trying,
से हमें पैरिटी लैब
and
का
in
काफी सपोर्ट
and
रहा है।
in
थैंक
this
यू।
fight,
थैंक यू
Parity Lab
नम्रता
has
जी।
been a great support
आप
for us.
आपका काम हमारे बहुत सारे अलमनाई महाराष्ट्र में है, तो आपके
Your
पाकिस्तान से
work
नाम मैंने तब से सुने
I
हैं,
have
तो जो
heard
लोग
because a lot of
महाराष्ट्र में
our
काम करते हैं वो
partners
जरूर
working in
सामर्थ्य
Maharashtra
के बारे में
know about
जरूर
Samarthya,
जाने।
and I've
वी
heard, and
हाईली
wish
रेकमेंड
that
करने
more
लगी।
people know
अब हम
about your
नीलम
work.
जी के तरफ जाएंगे जो
Now we'll
झारखंड
go
से
to
काम
Neelam,
करती
who
है
is
और
working in
झारखंड के बारे
Jharkhand.
में इतने
And
खूबसूरत
Matangi said,
शब्दावली बता दी
used
है
very
कि
beautiful
तो मैं
words,
आपसे भी वही
but I would
सवाल
like
पूछूंगी कि
to ask
आपने
her
ये
the same.
संस्था क्यों शुरू किया,
Why did
महिलाओं
you
के
start
साथ
the
काम करना
organization
जो जेंडर बेस्ड
working
वायलेंस
with
स्टार्ट कर
women,
चुकी है, और
women who
सिर्फ
are
वहां पे ही नहीं रोकना, वहां वहां से पॉलिटिक्स की तरफ ले
so
जाकर
not only just
समाज
working
को
with
और
women who
काम
faced violence,
करने
gender-based
के
violence, but
लिए
also bringing
जी।
them into the politics.
हाँ,
So
आप
why
ये
did you
कहानी
choose this
चाहेंगे
work?
क्यों
So we would
चुनी?
like to know your story and your motivation behind
आप म्यूट पे हैं नीलम जी।
starting this work.
नहीं, ठीक है। सबसे पहले तो सबको मेरा जोहार।
First of all, hello to everyone. Namaskar.
मैं एक हजारीबाग जिला झारखंड के बहुत ही इंटीरियर जगह पे हूँ
I'm
और
in a very remote place in Jharkhand.
जितने भी जंगल है पहाड़ी है उस
All
क्षेत्र में
the
मेरा ऑफिस है
so my office is
और
in
मैं
midst of
यहाँ
the
काफी
forest.
ग्रामीण महिला किशोरियों के साथ मैं काम
I
करती
mostly
हूँ
work with
और
rural
ये मेरी
women and
खुद की
girls.
ही सोच थी क्योंकि मैं मिशनरी
And since
स्कूल से
childhood, I had this in my mind. I've studied from a
ग्रेजुएशन की
missionary school, and the
उसके
way
पश्चात
my
ही मुझे समाज सेवा का
upbringing
खुद की
was,
सोच थी
I always
और
had
वो सोच तो थी ही और बीच में एक
helping
टाइम
people in
ऐसा
my
आया और
mind.
ये समय आया
Social
कि
work was
जब
always a
मुझे
priority for
बनाने का
me.
बात हुई थी
So
और
there
मैं
was
करती
something
थी
about
लेकिन नहीं कर
getting
पाती
the
थी लेकिन जाति
caste
प्रमाण पत्र
uh,
बनाने के लिए तो मुझे
certificate.
जाना जरूरी था
So
तो
I had
मैं
to
इस
go to the
तरीके के
blog for
सात
getting the caste
महीना भर वहाँ
certificate. So
जाति
for almost a month,
समझने के लिए
I
दौड़ाई
had to go
और जब
there
मैं
and
जाती
run
थी तो
around
किसी को
because
भी
I did not
जाति
know
जानती नहीं थी
anyone
जानती नहीं
and
थी कि
did not
समाज
know
में ऐसा है
anything.
फिर ऐसा
This
है
was my first
और ऐसा
time.
करते करते
So
किसी
it
एक
took me a
हमें पूछा
long.
कि क्या काम से आए हैं तो हम
So
लोग
somebody
समाज
asked
सेवा
me
करते
why
हैं
we are there, and I
तो
said
एक महीना
I
जो
want to
रहा
get
वो
a
जाति प्रमाण
caste
पत्र मेरा बना
certificate.
एक तो ये है
So it took
और
me a
दूसरी
month to
बात
get
है
the
कि
caste
वो
certificate.
जिस तरह से
This is one thing.
रंजीता जी ने अपना
And the way Ranjita ji
वैवाहिक
shared
जिंदगी के विषय में
her
बताया उसी
story, a
तरह
personal
मिला
story,
जुला मेरा भी मेरे
my
साथ भी हुआ
experience is
हम
also
एक
the
ऐसे
same.
समुदाय से आते हैं
We are from a
और कुछ
ST
जो एक
community,
रंजित के
and
कारण जो दंबज्ञ
since
लोग थे
there's a lot of
बगल के जो दबंग
poverty,
लोग थे उनके द्वारा
the
हम
people
लोग
who are
को
more
वहां पे बहुत
dominant.
मारा
My
गया
mother was
अपमान किया था और उस समय हम
beaten,
लोग बहुत छोटे बच्चे
oppressed,
थे
and we
एक
were very
महीना
young at
वो
that
काम
point of
वहां
time.
करा
So
और
this was in my
जब
mind
मेरी मैं मैट्रिक लिखी
when I was
उसके
in the
बाद फिर
metric
एक संस्था
class.
से मेरी मुलाकात हुई कि
I
आप
met
जाके काम
an
करिए वहां पे
organization
तो
and
वो
I saw
हमें
how
लगा
they were
कि इस
working,
तरह का काम करके ही
and I felt
हम
that
समाज
this
के लिए
kind of
कुछ कर
work
सकते हैं
will
और
help
लोगों
me
का
in doing
भला कर
something for the
सकते हैं क्योंकि
society and I can
जब
make people
जाति
aware.
एकदम इतना आसान से जो बनता है उसके लिए हमको मुझे जो इतना
So the
संघर्ष
caste, which
करने
is
और पढ़े
so
लिखे फिर
natural,
उनके
even
लिए
for
आगे
that,
बढ़े
getting a
मेरे मन
certificate
में ये
was
भावना
such a
हुई
task.
और
And I felt
हमारे
if it was
जो
so
जो
difficult for
समाज
me,
था
what about the
हमारे
people
समाज
who don't have
समस्त
reach or who
हमारे
are not
भाई
even educated?
या दूसरे समाज वाले जो दबंगी
So
लोग हैं
other
जिस तरह से हम
people
लोग
who
को
are more
इस
dominant,
तरह
the
से
way
महसूस
they
किया हमें लगा कि
oppress us, the
इस
way they
संस्था से
inflict
इस तरीके
violence
से
on us,
हमें
and
मतलब
I felt
उन
I
लोगों
can
को
only
काम करना है लोगों
fight
को बदनाम
against
करना
them
है
if
इस
I
तरीके
am
से
associated with an
ये मैंने
organization
अनुभव किया
or if I
और
have a
उसके
backing
बेस
of
पे
an
इस पे
organization.
हम कुछ समय तक
So I worked with some organization for a while, and during the work, I gained a lot of experience. I went around villages. I got training. So after a long time, and with support of some working with about 5 to 10,000 women and girls, she's associated with that, and trying to work on gender based violence, gender discrimination, and empowerment. So
अभी इतना आसानी से भी बन पा रहा है क्योंकि हमारे साथ पंचायत प्रतिनिधि हैं, हमारे साथ किशोरी लीडर हैं, हमारे साथ जो एसएचजी लीडर हैं, ये सारे लोग हैं मेरे साथ। तो हमें काम करने में अभी अच्छा भी लग रहा है और हमें बहुत सपोर्ट मिल रहा है और जुड़ाव भी इनके साथ बन गया है। तो ये है हमारे साथ और इसके साथ साथ हमारे जो पारिटी लैब हमको सक्षम करने के लिए हर तरह से वो मेरे लिए बहुत ही फायदेमंद
every way, which is very useful, beneficial for us, whether it's about leadership or developmental support, how can I make report or case studies. So a lot of capacity building that is happening, and I'm getting support from the Parity Lab. Thank you. Uh, Thank you, Neelam. I think your story, I can see something very clearly. We use big words in the development sector like collective impact and this money, but you have explained it, but you so beautifully and simply said that with a lot of people, you are working in the block, associating, taking everybody together. So you explained it so simply and so beautifully, and you are leading the change very beautifully. And thank you for sharing that. Now we'll go to Meena ji, who's from Bundelkhand, UP. We were case studies, what to and what not. We hear a lot from about Bundelkhand, and you're working in a very difficult place. You're working more than 15,000 families. So, what was your motivation behind starting the organization? My name is Meena, and I'm from Sahajani Shiksha Kendra Laditpur. The Sahajani Shiksha Kendra started in 2002. There's an organization called Nirantar in Delhi. It was started by them.
हाँ, एक नेतृत्व टीम तैयार हो जो कि फिर संस्था को अपने बलबूते में आगे ले जाए। तो इस तरीके से
Start a program where I lead, and so that I can
2013 में सहजता केंद्र की एक टीम तैयार हुई, खुद रजिस्ट्रेशन हुआ। इस समय सहजनी रूप से काम कर रही। तो सहजनी
and now we're working independently. We have a board, we have a leadership team. So the place we are working in, the area we are working in, there are different kind of challenges. So violence and killing are very prominent because women are looked upon as a property. If woman marries and comes in a home, so she becomes property of the husband. So she'll have to do whatever the man says. And because of that, they are discriminated since childhood. So there. So when we're working on violence against women or caste and gender, so it's not just that we face challenges only when we're working on these issues. I went to open a education center where women could come. So we were opening a center in Dalit. Some people from the Yadav community came and said, you should open this center in our community because there's still a lot of untouchability. So when I felt that the our purpose is defeated if I open the center in the community. So we would open the center in Saharia Samudaya. So I said that we may be opening it in the Shaharia community, but your women can also come and study here. But they were not able to take it that I'm opening this center in this community. And they would force the girls, take and rape them or inflict violence on them. So the Yadav boy came and they picked up a girl, and I was there. We were trying to do a program. So the girl didn't want to go and she was resisting, but he was trying to pull. So then I went and asked. I did not know the man. I went there for the first time in that village. I asked him, "What are you doing? The girl doesn't want to go. Why are you forcing her? You can't do this." So that man felt really bad because he was from the Yadav Samudaya community and he felt he was from a dominant community. How can a woman question her? So he came and he pushed me. I I picked up a log. So I fought with him. He pushed and I fell down. So, so even for FIR, I had to work really hard. I've been working in that area for a long time, but even to file a FIR, I had to go round and round. I had to fight with the people. They kept on sending me here and there. I was not in a situation to talk. So after huge effort, I was able to FIR, not FIR, NCR. We did Chakka Jam, we did press conference. God knows what all we did. We invited all the organizations from UP. Then we were able to register the FIR. So that kind of the area I work. Education is a main issue here so that women get educated and get empowered. Because I believe until unless women are educated and they understand, they cannot be empowered fully. Education is very, very important. Violence is a very complex situation. So we are trying to make people aware. We are doing campaigns so that women and so that people understand women are also human. They should get equality. So this is why and how I started Sajani Shikshan Train. So through literacy and education, we want to bring the change. We also try and get them schemes, government schemes, make their understanding better. The low caste, the women in low caste communities are not even able to walk with their slippers. They have to take their slippers in hand when they're walking. So they cannot walk in front of upper caste in their slippers. They still have to carry their slippers in hands while they're working. So they are still very complex practices
मीना जी
in our area.
वो हमारे लिए
Thank you,
हमें
Beena ji.
थोड़ा डर भी लगता है कि अभी भी ये
Uh,
चल रहा है
I
हमारे
feel
ही
really
देश में
scared that these
अ,
things are still prevailing in our
एक्चुअली ये
country.
अच्छा पॉइंट है तो मैं
This is
अगले
a good
अगला
point.
सवाल रंजिता
So
जी
my
से
next
पूछना
question
चाहती हूँ
I will ask
मीना जी ने
Ranjita ji.
सरल तरीके से बताया कि
Meena
जहाँ पे
ji
कुछ बाधाएं
explained
आती हैं जैसे
what all
एक तो
problems
सोच है
come.
महिलाओं को
One
वस्त्र
is the
पहनाना
attitude,
मानने की एक बात है
uh,
हमारा कास्ट
the
सिस्टम है
mindset,
वो है
our
और
caste
आप
system, how women are
एक
looked
ट्राइब
upon
के
as
साथ काम करती
a
हैं जो बहुत
commodity.
समय से इंडिपेंडेंस के पहले से
And
ही
your
बहुत
organization
मुश्किल
works with the
सिचुएशन में
community,
रहती
uh,
हैं
which
उनके
is in a
साथ
very
काम
difficult
करने के लिए
situation
इश्यूज
since
काम
British
करने के लिए
time.
आपको
And
क्या क्या
working
बाधाएं आती हैं
with them on their issues,
अपने
what kind of
एरियाज
challenges you face since you work in rural areas. If you can tell our audience what are the specific challenges in your community when you're working with them, especially with the system,
मीना जी की बात हो रही थी कि हमारे
like Ninaji was saying.
समुदाय में किस
In
तरह
our
से
community,
पुरुष प्रधान मानसिकता के कारण
we have a
या
male
कह लें क्षत्रिय
dominant
मानसिकता के कारण
mindset
या
or the
धर्म
caste
के
based
मानसिकता
mindset
के
or
कारण
the
जो
religious
वंचित समुदाय
mindset,
है जो पिछड़ा समुदाय है तो
the
अपने
deprived
न्याय दिलाने के
community.
लिए जब ये सिस्टम के साथ में
When a
धीरे से
deprived community
विरोध में
fights
खड़े होते हैं
against
तो
injustice and fights for their
एक तरीके
justice,
से
they have
वहाँ
to
पे
face
भागा जाता
lot
है
of
जैसे
challenges.
अगर हम
They are
डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस
prevented
केस में
from
देखते हैं
getting the justice.
एक महिला
Like
है
we
वो
see in the
अपना
domestic
एक
violence
तरीके से
cases,
पीटी गई है
a
और वो
woman is
अपना
beaten badly
उससे बाहर निकलने के लिए वो
and she wants to come
कोई
out of
सपोर्ट
the
सिस्टम चाहती है वो
situation. She
पुलिस के
wants a
पास जाती
support
है तो
system. She goes to
वहीं से
police,
उसका स्ट्रगल या
but
उसका
her struggle
जो न्याय
starts
का
from
जो
there.
संघर्ष है वो
Her
शुरू हो जाता
struggle
है
for the justice starts
आपने
from
बहुत सारे
there.
केसेस ऐसे देखे
We've
हैं
seen
कि
many
वो
cases,
महिलाएं पुलिस स्टेशन जाती
women
हैं
go to police
लेकिन
station,
आप निचली
but
जाति से है
but
आप
since you are from a lower
पीड़ित है
caste
आप
and
जहाँ
you are
पे
from
भी
a
रहोगे
criminal tribe,
ये मानसिक
uh,
कारण
so
पहले
because
से
of the
ही
mindset
आपकी
that people have
मोरल है वो
towards the
गिराया जाता
community,
है
they are
और उनको
discouraged.
मानसिक रूप से कमजोर किया जाता
Uh,
है अगर महिलाएं कुछ
they are
अपने ऊपर
weakened
कोई इस तरह से
mentally.
एक मनोबल बना के अगर पुलिस स्टेशन जाती है तो
If
वहां
women
पे
go
उनको
and
ऐसे
talk
फिक्स
about their
स्टैटिस्ट दिए जाते हैं ऐसे बहुत सारे
violence stories, their
ऐसे
case is
सवाल
not
है जो मेरा
registered. I have such cases.
बैठना पड़ता है पुलिस स्टेशन
I
के
sit
सामने
till 1 o'clock
पुलिस के साथ
in the
झगड़ा
police
करो
station,
या
fight with
उस
police
उसकी उनकी
officers,
बातें समझाओ बहुत सारी
or tell
चीजें
them
करने
about
के
the rules
बाद
and
भी वो बाहर
regulation.
निकाल देते हैं
Even
पुलिस स्टेशन
after
से कि
that,
आप थोड़ा
they
बाहर
throw us
निकलिए
out
तो
that
इस
you go
तरीके
and sit
का
and wait.
एक सिस्टम भी
So the
हमारे सामने
system
में
works
इस तरीके
like
का
that, and we
व्यवहार
have to
करती
face
है
those
उसके बाद
difficulty,
फिर
and
महिलाएं जब
such is the treatment
वो
with
बेसहारा
us.
हो जाता है
So
वो
when the
न्याय के
case
लिए
is
आगे बढ़ती
finally
है
filed and
तो
they
यहाँ पे
move
जो
ahead
भी
in the justice
सरकारी
system,
वकील है या प्रोटेक्शन
the
ऑफिसर के
the
पास जाती है
protection
इस तरीके
officer
से
or
वो
the
सपोर्ट वाले
government
काम
um,
नहीं करते हैं
officials,
तो इस
they
वजह
do
से
not
महिलाओं की
support her.
मानसिकता भी बदल जाती है कि न्याय
So
लेने के
that
लिए हमें
also
कितना संघर्ष
discourages
करना
them,
पड़ेगा
and they also start
कितना
thinking that
हमारे ऊपर
we have to work so
अन्याय हुआ है
hard to
उससे
get
ज्यादा न्याय के लिए हमें संघर्ष
justice,
करना पड़ रहा
because
है
it
तो
is
इससे
even
महिलाएं काफी
difficult, more difficult than the injustice
चिड़चिड़ा
that has
जाती है
been inflicted
इस तरीके
upon
से
us.
भी एक
So
बाधा है
they
हमारे महिलाओं को
backtrack,
फेस करना पड़ता है
they
ये सबसे
retreat
बड़ा
back,
समुदाय को
because
फेस करना
especially in
पड़ता
the
है
deprived community,
इसके
they
साथ
have
ही
to face
ये
the
इन समुदायों
situation.
में एक महिलाओं
And
के
in
सामने
these
भी
communities,
अंधविश्वास ऐसे भी है
women have
कि
this kind of
कभी
thinking
कभी
that
कहा जाता है ना कि पति ने
it
मारा
is
5 दिन
said,
तो उसमें क्या होता है तो इस तरीके
so
की
it is a
मानसिक जो
saying
है
like, if
ये महिलाएं
husband is
रखती है
beaten you or the
वो नहीं चाहती है कि
rain
ये
fell on
किसी
you,
5
what's the
बड़े
big deal?
4 लोगों में पता चले
So
इस तरह की
their
मानसिक
mentality is
दशा में रहनी
that
पड़ती है
we
तो
keep
इस
these
मानसिकता की
things
वजह से
inside the house
वो
and we
हिंसा के
shouldn't
विरोध
take
में
this out
उतने
in the
एकजुट
open.
से खड़ी नहीं हो पाती
So
है
they are
जब
not
एकजुट
able
नहीं
to
हो जाती है
fight.
तो फिर परिवार
Sometimes
वालों
when
को
they do
फेस
stand up
करते
for
हुए
their
देखना पड़ता
rights,
है
then they
कि
have
अरे
to
तेरी
hear
बच्चे क्या
from,
करोगी अरे
and they
तू
are
तेरे
discouraged,
को घर
saying that you
संभालना
have a
तो
child,
इस
you
तरीके
have
से
to
वो
look
चीजें
after the
खर्चा
house.
करना
So
है ये भी
people
समाज भी बाधा डालती है उनको एक न्यायिक प्रक्रिया में जाने के लिए तो इस तरीके का पूरा माहौल है ये सारी
even
न्याय
ask
की
for
प्रक्रिया
justice.
महिलाओं के हिंसा के खिलाफ खड़ा होने के लिए ये सारी बाधाएं हम लोग डे
So
टू
these
डे
are the kind of challenges that we face on daily basis when we try and get justice and we get into the
देखिए
judicial
तानिया
system.
आपने बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट
You
और
have
आपकी जो
raised a
प्रैक्टिकल
very
रियलिटी है
important
आपने
and the
फेस
practical
करी है तो मुझे
realities
लगता है
that
अपने
you have
एक
shared.
महिलाएं जो अपने
You
आप
have brought
मानसिकता से
in
फेस कर रही हैं वो सिस्टम और
how
लीगल सिस्टम वो है सबके
how
साथ
legal
चीज
and
आपने बताई मैं
systemic
रिफॉर्म
challenges are
बाद में
there.
भी
You
पहले
shared.
मीना जी
When I was
आपसे
reading
उसमें
the
भी
white paper,
कॉम्प्रोमाइज के बारे में
you have
बात की
spoken about
मीना जी आप हमें
compromise.
सुनते हैं
Meena ji, are you there?
उनका वीडियो स्टक हो गया है
I
तो
think
मैं
her
क्विक
video,
क्योंकि हमारे पास समय कम है
since
नीलम
we
जी
don't
तो
have much time,
शायद अब मैं
uh,
दोनों को संक्षिप्त में कहने का रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी
I
नीलम
will
जी आगे आते हैं
request
फिर
you
वापस
to
हम
please
मीना जी पे
share
जाएंगे
briefly.
नीलम जी
We'll come
आप
back to you,
देखते हैं
Neelam ji.
पुरुष प्रधान हमारा समाज है
So the society that we have, which is male dominating, and you're working with those women and you are trying to enable them, empower them, and the challenges that Ranjita ji shared. So you are basically enabling, empowering women in that kind of society. If you can share your experience, how it has been, what is it that you do so that women are able to fight with the impediments that we have, the blocks that they have internal or outside. So in a male dominant society, how do you help women or enable them to fight for their rights? So whether women are from SHG or they are PRI or uh, adolescent girls, we work with them on women issues. We give them training. And when we say women issues, we talk about their rights from a feminist perspective. We talk about gender equality. So we do training, and during training, we talk about uh, these issues. They go back to their villages. They during the training, they share the challenges that they face when they work with men and boys in their villages. So we talk about that as well. So according to their challenges, so when we see that if women PRIs are facing this kind of problem, why shouldn't we also do training with the women male uh, elected representatives? Whenever we have meeting in block or district level, uh, they are able to get information quickly on men. Men have more access to phones, so women representatives don't have men because mostly the phones are with men. That is why they are able to use more resources. Women don't get information. They are not able to work properly because they don't get information on time. We work on discrimination, gender-based violence. So women issues that we work on, we try and raise those issues with the male elected representatives so that they also understand. We try and see what is their mindset, how how they think and how they do it in their own families or in the society. So we talk about that, how they sort of behave. So we talk about their perspective. So a lot of things come from them, and then we discuss about that as well. Uh, on the village level, when we work with male representative, and with them when we work with the other male and boys, other men and boys in the village, when we speak about the feminist perspectives. So when we train the male representative and then they take that forward and they talk about the same perspective in the village, their ward or in the villages. So they take this feminist approach and perspective through their work in their area, in their work.
मुझे बार-बार
I request you to speak briefly.
नहीं आप प्लीज पॉइंट फिनिश कर दीजिए प्लीज हाँ
So please, So in the family also we see women have more responsibility. So we see how we also talk to men how they can share the role of household work.
तो वो माहौल कैसे बदले, क्योंकि हमेशा से
So
नारियों
how
को
we
ही बदलना है,
change the
पुरुषों
environment.
को बदलना है,
So
एक
it's not
माहौल
that
बदलना
women
है
have to change,
नारीवादी
even men have to change.
गांव
We
में,
have to
शहर में,
create an
घर में।
environment,
थैंक यू
whether
नीलम
it's
जी, आपसे
village
सबसे
or
या मुझे
city
लगता है सबसे बड़ा
or
सवाल है,
the
मैं
country.
रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि जल्दी
It's a
उसका
big
जवाब
question, but
दें।
I will request you to
रिसेंटली हमने
reply
कॉम्प्रोमाइज पर
briefly.
काफी बात की कि वहाँ
You
पे
spoke a lot about
सोच
compromise.
बन चुका है कहते हैं
It's a
कि महिला
system there.
प्रोड्यूसर हो जाए या
If
कुछ
a
ऐसा,
woman gets
तो
killed
पैसे
or
का
is
आदान प्रदान
attacked,
करके
so
फैमिलीज
they
कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर देती है कि चलो
take
बात खत्म
money
हो गई।
and
ये
compromise. That's what
बन चुका है,
families do.
उसमें
If
से
it
भी
has
ऐसी
become a
महिलाओं के
system,
लिए वकालत करते
so
हैं
how do
न्याय
you
क्या है,
advocate for
क्योंकि हमें
women to
जो
get
न्याय
justice in
तभी
such a
मिलेगा जब महिला
situation?
को
Because
न्याय
women,
के ऊपर ये
the
वायलेंस हुआ
justice
है। तो आप
will only
बहुत कैसे
happen when the woman
कॉम्प्रोमाइज
who's
करते हैं
affected gets
फैमिली में
justice.
आदान
So the
प्रदान
system where
करते हैं, आप
families take
कैसे
money,
महिलाओं के लिए
how do
वकालत
you
करते हैं, ये
advocate
सबसे
for
बड़ी बात है।
women's
अगर आप एक मिनट
right
में
or
थोड़ा सा
women's
कंक्लाइज
justice?
करें।
If you can answer that in a minute.
है
I can't hear her properly.
जी, आप आपका हेलो बहुत क्लियरली सुनाई दिया
नेटवर्क की बहुत दिक्कत है आज।
कि
There's a lot of problem with the network.
हाँ जी, अब बताइए आप।
He
इसीलिए
has
मेरा
written
मन कर रहा है कि
very
शायद वो
clearly
आ
in
जाए,
report,
पर समय कम है। पर
but
अगर
since we don't have a lot of
अगर
time,
ये सिस्टम झारखंड में या
if this
महाराष्ट्र
system
में होता
prevails
तो अगर
in
कोई
Jharkhand
एक
or
चीज बता पाए कि
Maharashtra,
ये
either of
सिचुएशन में
you can
जहाँ फैमिली या
uh,
जो परिवार है उसके पास हम जाते
respond,
हैं कि चलो
the
ये चीज
family
हमारे साथ
where we
बचेगी,
go,
इन
like
महिलाओं के
we
पास
think
शायद वो सिस्टम
women
नहीं है, इसमें
feel that we
कैसे
have family
हम
support, but
महिलाओं को
here where
हाँ आ रही है मीना
अब आ रही है।
जी
अरे वो बदल गया था, हिंदी में नहीं था इसलिए।
अच्छा अब आ रही है, आप बताइए।
हम ये कह रहे हैं कि समझौता, जैसे कि यहाँ का होता है कि दहेज में
negotiation means
लेते हैं लोग,
people
मनमाने
take
दहेज।
dowry,
पहले ससुराल
they
वाले
ask
मायके वाले
whatever.
दहेज देते हैं और
First,
जहाँ लड़की
girl's
घर वाले
family
ये
gives
सोचते हैं कि
dowry
अब लड़की तो
to
मर गई है, बस
the
मर गई।
men's family.
तो
But when the girl dies,
अब
they
होता
feel
है
the girl has died,
जब
so
उधर
why
उनको
shouldn't we
लगता है कि
take the money
अगर
back?
एफआईआर हो जाएगी,
So they feel if
अगर ये हो
we,
जाएगी तो अच्छी रकम मिलेगी और
so they
अच्छी
feel if they
अगर
file the FIR, they will be able to get good amount of money since the girl has died already.
रिपोर्ट करके या मामलों को तैयार करके हम एफआईआर करवा दे। एफआईआर करवाना ही उनके लिए एक बहुत भयानक मुद्दा बन जाता है। जहाँ एफआईआर हुई और गिरफ्तारी हुई तो फिर और माने 3 महीना के अंदर सब कुछ कहता है कि माने पैसा
So
का
within
ले
3 months, everything gets settled once the FIR is filed. So
नहीं
once the girl dies, the girl's family feels that if they do the FIR, they will be able to get a good amount of money.
मायके पास से बहुत ज्यादा केस बढ़ले आ रहे हैं। तो अब हम लोग
So that kind of
समय
cases are increasing.
जहाँ केस उन जाके अड़ रहे हैं, हम नाटक किए हैं, समझौता
So
को
we
लेकर
have
एक
we have
नाटक कर
created a
रहे हैं
skit
लेके
like a street play
पुलिस
where we say
समुदाय के सामने वो नाटक प्रस्तुत करते हैं। फिर नाटक में माने हम समुदाय से
so
अलग करते हैं।
through
अगर
through
उससे
the
लड़ाई की
play
जाए
we
तो
are
फिर क्या
trying to
होगा? फिर
bring this
वहाँ
issue and trying to show what is
माने
happening, and
अभी
if this kind of
बात
situation prevails, what will happen to the girl.
हो वो हो तो फिर अगर महिलाएं ही रह जाएंगी तो फिर कैसे होगा? तो
So we're
माने
trying to
ये
say if all women die, what will
है
happen to the society? So trying to raise awareness through the play, street plays, showing what is the situation, prevailing situation, and what it will end in. Ultimately, what will happen if such situation continues.
I think one thing I want to give a chance to Ranjita and Neelam ji is कि यहाँ पे 40 लोग हैं, अभी 35 लोग हैं, अगर वो
We
एक
have,
चीज कर सकते हैं आपको मदद
if
करने के लिए, 30
so,
में
I
देखो
would
अगर
like
उनकी
to
बात सुन
ask
पाए कि हाँ सुन रहा
Ranjita
है
ji
यहाँ पे,
and
मतलब उनको इंटरेस्ट
Neelam
है
ji,
इस
there are 40
तो अगर
people,
हम
around
यहाँ
40
बैठे बैठे
people
आपको
here. So
कुछ
if
गलत कर सकते हैं
you
तो
can
आप
tell
बताइए
us
क्या
one
करें।
thing
रंजिता जी पहले आपसे
in
सुनेंगे,
terms of what
नीलम
kind
जी
of
से सुनेंगे और फिर
help
सवाल पे
you
आते हैं।
expect from us.
Yeah.
What is it that we can do? Just one thing that you
हम लोग
think
यही चाहते
we
हैं,
can
जो
help you with.
ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इतने
We
ग्रासरूट लेवल
want
पे
that
काम कर रही
the
है
grassroots
पिछले 10-12
organization
सालों से,
working on grassroots level,
निरंतर
like we
काम
are
में है
working
और
since
लोग
last 10,
जुड़ना
12
अभी
years
जुड़ना भी
continuously.
चाह रहे हैं।
And
यहाँ पे
we
लोगों के
want to
साथ काम करना एक बड़ा
add more
चैलेंज
people.
हमारे साथ
And it's
में
a
है,
challenge to work
तो
with the
कानूनी
people here. It has
जानकारी
been
पहुंचाना, ये सारी चीजें भी हमें
so giving
तेजी से
legal
करनी पड़ती है।
information to
तो ये
people.
संस्था को थोड़ी
So the
संसाधनों की
organization needs
issues क्योंकि
resources,
अगर
and we
अगर
feel
एक
there is
बड़ा
lack of
संसाधन
resources
या
for the kind of
खुले का
work
माहौल
we
हम
work.
देखें तो
So the
ग्रासरूट
situation
स्तर पे कुछ होना चाहिए जहाँ पे
where on the grassroots
जरूरत
level
है तो
where
वहाँ को कोच
the
नहीं पा
need
रहे हैं,
is,
तो
the resources
ऐसे
don't
अवसर
reach
होंगे तो और
there. So if
ताकतवर
we
हम
have
लोग
more
मिलके
resources, we'll
इस
be
काम
able
को
to
कर सकते हैं। तो
gather more
यही
people,
रिक्वेस्ट
work
है।
with more
थैंक यू।
people. So
पैरिटी
lack of
लैब लगाना
resources.
जरूरी है ताकि
So
जहाँ
that
पे
is
मदद
why
की पहुंच
the
नहीं
work
जरूरी है वहां
Parity
तक
Lab
पहुंचे।
does is
नीलम जी
becomes
अगर आप
very
कर सके तो
important.
मैं आधे मिनट में
So
बताइए,
if
फिर हम
Neelam, you
क्वेश्चन
can
आंसर पे
also
जाते हैं।
tell us briefly one thing that we can help you with.
जिस तरह से हम ग्रास रूट लेवल पे काम
The
कर
way we
रहे
are
हैं और
working on the
जिनके लिए हम
grassroots
काम कर
level,
रहे
and for the
हैं,
people we are working
और
for,
अच्छे तरीके से और अच्छा उनके साथ काम करने के लिए और उनकी
and
उनकी
for
नेतृत्व क्षमता के
do
लिए हम
better
जो काम
work
कर
with
रहे हैं,
them,
उसके
and
लिए
for
हर
their
संस्था के लिए भी
leadership
जरूरी है
skills. It is
जो
important for the
ऐसे
organization
समझ कर
as
उनसे
well
उस तरह का
that
हो, उस तरह से सोचे
organization also
प्रोफेशनल्स
develop. It
हमारे
becomes
पास
more
मिलके काम
professional.
करें।
We don't have
क्योंकि
such
संस्था
professional
ग्रास रूट लेवल
capacities.
पे काम
We are a
करती है,
small
जहाँ
organization
लेके
working on a
चलती है,
grassroots level
तो उनके
between
पास
a forest.
प्रोफेशनल जिस अभी तो पारिटी लैब कुछ हमें कर रहा है
So now
ऑनलाइन में,
Parity Lab is
लेकिन
giving us some
ये
support,
ऑफलाइन में सपोर्ट के
but
लिए या हमारे पास उस तरह का
in
टूल्स अगर
offline we
अच्छे
don't
हो
have
तो
that
अच्छे
kind of support.
प्रोजेक्ट
If we
प्लानिंग,
get
अच्छे
support for reporting
जो है
project
उस काम का
proposal
जिससे
or
और अच्छे से
attracting
सक
more
सके,
funds,
हम
or
उन्हीं के सामने से
so that
प्रस्तुत कर सके,
I
तो
can
वो हमें
so that
आगे
we
बढ़ने
can
में सहयोग
showcase
करने
our
में
work
मिलेगी।
in
मैं
a
आपको
more
आशा करती हूँ।
professional manner.
यहाँ
That
पे
kind of
ऐसे
help
लोग हैं, आप
would be
जरूर
very,
उनसे
very useful. So there are
कांटेक्ट
a lot of
करके
people
मदद
here.
लीजिएगा
You
अगर
can,
हो सके
there are a
ठीक
lot of
है।
people
थैंक
here
यू।
who will be able to help
समय
you in this
निकालने के लिए
regard.
हीना जी का भी
Thank you so
बहुत
much
थैंक यू। अभी आप
for
जाना
taking
नहीं है,
this
सवाल
time
जवाब
out.
में हैं, सो आई
So
रिक्वेस्ट
don't go
पैरिटी
away.
लैब के
There would be
अगर
some
आप
question
मदद करें।
answers, and I would request Parity Lab
Two questions, so I'm
team
just going to
to
choose one.
help us with the questions.
So maybe Ranjita ji, you can answer. So one of the questions Sheila has asked.
Sheila
I'm
has
wondering
asked a
what the
question.
panelist would recommend to funders all over the world to better support their work. What should funders be doing differently? If Ranjita, maybe you can answer this.
एक बार मैं हिंदी में बोल दूं, हिंदी
I think interpretation आ रहा है.
हम आंसर में जाएं।
आपको
या
ट्रांसलेशन आ गया?
हाँ, ट्रांसलेशन आ
okay.
गया।
Super.
यही कि अभी हमें फोकस थोड़ा ग्रासरूट लेवल की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को करने की जरूरत है।
I feel the focus should be more on grassroots level organization. Funders should think what are the needs of the organization, or what are the ways they can support or strengthen the organization. This is what we see. If the community-based system is strengthened,
जहाँ से वंचित समुदाय है वहां से नेतृत्व उभर के आता है। ये
then only we see leadership arises from the community. So since we are doing this work already, so we feel that people should give more focus to organizations like us. They should come and see what kind of work we are doing, and they will be able to understand, and this will also help in changing the perspective. So funders or the funding agency needs to come to the field, and especially in India, the situation is very bad because of the FCRA or the different laws. So they have to come and see how how the work is taking place at the grassroots level, and come and see the field and see the realities that might help the funders to understand the situation, to find ways to fund them properly. The way Ranjita has responded, I agree, and I want to say the same. Since we are working on the grassroots level and we work in remote areas, difficult areas, and we work on with those difficult communities, so we would want that our donor agencies or the partner agencies, they come and see our work and they support us for our work, because we work on the ground level and we work with living in those communities. So they see how we manage, they understand our perspective, our work, and help us to do our work in a better way. That is what we expect and hope from the funders.
Please back 30 seconds. आपको कुछ final thoughts, 30 seconds.
ये कह रहे हैं जैसे जो जमीनी स्तर की संस्थाएं हैं, तो एक तो ये है कि माने जो फंडर है वो काम के लिए तो पैसा दे पर कुछ हमें इस तरह के भी फंडरों का जुगाड़
So funders of course give fund for work, but we also need funders who help us with the organizational development and capacity building of the organization. So most funders give money for the work and based on the numbers, on data. But we would also want funders who would support the organization for organizations development.
समुदाय में इस तरह की भयानक हिंसाएं हो रही हैं, तो हम किस तरह समुदाय की समझ बनाएं? केवल महिलाओं की या किशोरियों की समझ बनाने से शायद काम चलने वाला नहीं है. हमें पूरे समुदाय
only creating awareness or giving understanding is not good enough. So we also need to work in a way that we are able to change the mindset of the people. So funders not only need to support the programs, but also support the organization.
I hope you all got as energized by this as we did. I know a few of you have reached out asking how can we connect with you. Manaswini will also be dropping our contacts in the chat. You can reach out to us at Parity Lab. You can reach out to any of our partner organizations. This is our website, email, LinkedIn info. We'll also stay on for a few more minutes if anyone wants to stay back and chat with us. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I know we are 4 minutes ahead of time. So thank you so much for being a part of this. Yeah. And thank you.